Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and it is live. This is not a pre-record like Thursday. I am live here in the treehouse, and I have not forgotten that I need to actually do a video for you guys to show you what I see here in said treehouse. It is a very cool location. The Starlink is working. Just have to do some work on the lighting at the moment. You won't see it this morning, but the frame rate, I don't even get my head around this, the frame rate of this filming or production is out of kilter with the lights, and so if I was to put a certain light on at the moment, the whole place would look like a disco, so we're not going to do that. But look, welcome to Solid Ground, where we talk the social, cultural, political issues of the day, things which have caught my eye, and of course things that have caught your eye. As I said at the start, this is live, so if you had any thoughts and comments, is something you would like to ask about, know that you can put your comments in the Family First YouTube channel or Family First's Facebook page, and they'll come to me live here in the studio, and I'll do my best to answer them. As regulars will know, I often get overwhelmed with the number of comments coming in, but I will do my best to answer them. And as I say, if you've got comments on what we're discussing, please do. In fact, we're going to talk about violence in the political realm, or rather words of violence, in this case coming from the former Prime Minister, and importantly how I suppose her acolytes, her supporters, have indulged that. And the key theme I'm going to be putting to you this morning is, unfortunately, when it comes to left-wing violence, they don't see a problem with it. They'll complain about the right wing and the violence that comes from there, and indeed there is violence from the right wing of Parliament, not just here in New Zealand, or politics, not really the Parliament, in politics. But how the left wing justifies it and sees that it's not a problem. It's a double standard, it's a hypocrisy. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We may, if I get to time, get onto a whole range of other topics as well, because, as you know, there is no shortage, including the Aussie media ban. So, guys, there is much to discuss. I can see comments rolling through already. So good morning to Harrison there. Go well with the house inspection and the movie watching. I see Mike, good morning, lovely to have you along. Catherine, got Darren there, good morning. Jackie, lovely to have you along too. We've got Lynette, good morning. Fourth Adam, good morning to you. Foo Dogs Trucking, lovely to have you along. Lovely there in Waipukurau, Chris is telling me, which is lovely. Liz, always a pleasure to have you along, and thanks for the wider work that you do as well. Catherine's telling me there's nothing wrong with the disco ball. Natalie, good morning to you. Lovely to, I hope you and the young ones, you can include Matthew in that, are doing well. Sandra, good morning to you as well. It is absolutely brilliant to have you all along. I better stop there, or I'll spend all morning saying good morning. By the way, if you're on my Facebook page or on my LinkedIn channel or on X or Substack or wherever, know your comments I will get to afterwards. They're just not coming in here live. The system, which we don't have control over, at this point only takes two streams. But look, great to have you all along. Where I thought actually I would start with something not so much serious, just really an encouragement to you guys if you haven't caught the news yet, to keep the people of Japan, particularly in the north, in your prayers and in your thoughts. There's been quite a large earthquake to the north of Japan, and so there's tsunami warnings. I think they've learned from the last one, but long and short, just keep them in your thoughts and prayers. I mean, this will be a distressing time for them. In somewhat more humour, a friend of mine who I went to seminary with sent me this the other day, and I just thought it was quite funny. So it's obviously to do with the little drummer boy. But I don't know, maybe it's my sense of humour, guys, and I know it's not Christmas Day yet, but I thought it was funny. Oh, sorry, I've also got to have my cup of coffee with as you know, they're all sold out. All these Solid Ground mugs have been so popular. But anyway, I thought that was funny. This is probably not so funny to the left wing at the moment here in New Zealand. We'll talk about this, Bob and I, more on Political Playback on Thursday night. But what you're seeing here is obviously a slight increase to National, which they'll be relieved about. This is one of the higher polls they've had for a while. They'll be nervous that Labour's also going up. But what you're seeing is a revolutionary and a group that's quite tribal. Revolutionary and a group that's quite tribal. They will always fight each other. As Fourth Adam is noting, ACT has gone up. Yeah, I think that's... Actually, I don't know exactly how to explain that. It's probable that it's just some national voters, again, are still just not too happy. I noticed New Zealand First is at 9, but I've seen other polls where they were slightly higher. So it'll be interesting to know why that is. Again, can't quite guess it, but I think the big story is Te Pāti Māori and the Greens going down solo. Personally, I think Top and ALC being there is bordering on ridiculous that they don't even get to 1%. Catherine says it depends where you get your polls from. It's a good and valid point. I think the key, guys, is that if you put all these polls together, and we'll probably do this on Thursday night, there is still a trend which basically is National and Labour are neck and neck, or National's just ahead. And you're seeing the growth in ACT and New Zealand First all heading towards about 10%. It's the left where the real, I think, interesting fight is to be had, because ultimately, excuse me, I'm just trying to find my button. Here we go. Ultimately, it's going to be decided. The next election is going to be decided by the small parties. National and Labour can't do it by themselves. It looks at this point in the political time that again, the two big parties are no longer the two big parties. They rely on and need the small one, and I have to say, rely on the left wing and fringe collapsing. I'm with Foo Dogs Trucking. How sad, never mind. Yeah, I think they're dangerous ultimately with their ideas, which is unfortunate. But now to something more substantial. So this was, I think, over the weekend, and it really annoyed me. So long and short, Jacinda, from her documentary. So she was on the Graham Norton show talking about her documentary. And in the documentary, there's a clip of her, and I'll show it to you in a moment, of her saying she wanted to punch Simon Bridges. And now a lot of people, because I posted this onto LinkedIn and Facebook, and I thought it was fascinating actually, guys, because the Facebook people, very, very supportive of overall. Fascinating on LinkedIn, and I think it tells you a little bit about who's on there. Loads of people saying that Jacinda's comments, saying that it's, she wants to punch someone, in this case another politician, was perfectly acceptable, that she should be allowed to say it. Even had a reporter from Newsroom saying we just got to sort of move on from this. But I think what is striking, it'll be the main theme of what I want to get out here today, and I'm going to try and write a Substack on this as well. It's the hypocrisy, the double standards, the inconsistencies of the left wing, who fundamentally believe violence is okay so long as it's coming from them. So you'll know yourselves, we get almost every week, or maybe to be fairer, every month, a puff piece story in our mainstream media talking about the abuse directed towards politicians, and particularly towards female politicians. Often there's very little evidence. There's no discussion that often men who are politicians, like myself, don't make a big song and dance about the threats we receive. In fact, I've talked about that before. Threats and abuse were just part of political life. I just don't go running off to the media, and I think you'll find most of my now former male colleagues don't. But mainstream media will run these puff piece stories, talking about the abuse, decrying the violence, talking about misogyny and so forth. But when in this case a female MP, in fact a female Prime Minister, uses words of violence, it's celebrated, or it's ignored, or we're told that it's nothing to see here. And the simple point is this: either political violence and violence in language is appropriate or it's not. And I said very clearly that it's not appropriate at any point to actually threaten violence against someone, certainly not in the political realm. But it seems that our friends on the left, our friends in the mainstream media, believe it's perfectly acceptable. And that just underlines the point I said at the start. The left wing say they don't like violence, but they're one of the greatest perpetrators of violence. And you just have to look around the world, from the trans movement to Antifa, to Extinction Rebellion and so on. Most terrorism actually is based out of Marxist groups. You can go and look all of this up. It's not made up. The right, excuse me, the right wing of politics certainly has a violence problem as well. No one should be trying to limit that. But to conflate the two is wrong. And I can certainly say to you, as someone who's on the centre right of politics, there is no place for violence and abuse in politics. But the left wing believes there is. They believe their violence is fine. They believe that their violence is sanctioned because they are morally right and superior. And so whether it's currently attacking the Crown Jewels, I don't know if you've been following that in the UK, again another far left group has attacked the Crown Jewels, left the case surrounding it. They've poured manure all over the Christmas tree at the Ritz Hotel in London. Again, you think of the weekly protests in support of Hamas, you think of the Antifa protests and violence, think of Black Lives Matters, you just name it. Left wing, left wing, left wing. They say they don't like violence, but they are the biggest perpetrators of it. And here, again, it's not actually to put too much focus on Jacinda herself, but here is someone who talks about kindness and empathy and different types of politics, but as you're about to see, more than happy to punch her opponent in the face because she didn't like it. And look, you can say it's just an expression. It was the heat of the moment. I can certainly, acknowledge that, but it's still not appropriate. And as I mentioned, it's fascinating how all these lefties come into her support. Again, the first people to decry violence, but not in this case. But have a listen.
My question is to the Prime Minister. Does she accept estimates that New Zealand's economy will shrink by 10% this year, while Australia's will fall by less than 5%?
Mr. Speaker, as I've said, I've heard a range of...
Order.
Simon Bridges yelled across the House, "She doesn't do the economy." They wanted to punch him in the face.
That member may have the luxury of sitting on that side of the House, not bearing the consequences of a wrong move.
Shouldn't the Prime Minister make a new decision every single day about how she can safely get more businesses back to business?
Love to see the members' evidence that that's not exactly what we are doing.
Just thought I'd put a little bit more context there. I mean, as I say, it wasn't a comedic statement on the Graham Norton show. A lot of people who have been challenging, certainly my critique and others of this, said, it was comedy, it's metaphorical, it's colloquial. At the end of the day, there's the video itself, which they've deliberately decided to keep in the documentary. Of course, there'll be hours and hours footage. They've absolutely kept it in there, where this politician says that she wants to punch another politician in the face. Now, let's not over-egg this. In this case, Simon Bridges doesn't require extra security and so forth, and I doubt it probably would have ever happen. But the inconsistency that we're discussing here is how particularly mainstream media and supporters of the left engage this. They talk about, as I say, every month or so, the media's running stories about the abuse of politicians, particularly female ones, which in itself is fine. Let's be clear about that. It's good to actually draw attention to the abuse in the hope that actually it is stopped. That people actually will wake up and go, this isn't the appropriate way to act. But the media are totally silent, if not celebratory, of when the shoe's on the other foot. And probably over-egged it, over-talked about it, but it's just completely wrong. As Sue says, if it was a man, actually I probably should have got to that point quite early. Had this been John Key saying he wanted to punch Helen Clark, or you could imagine at the moment if Chris Luxon said that of a politician on the other side, excuse the French, but all hell would break loose. There would be day after day, wall-to-wall coverage. But in this case, it's celebrated and it's full of excuses. I've been quite stunned. As I say, one reporter from Newsroom even commented on my LinkedIn that we just got to move on. It's like, no, we don't have to actually move on. The likes of Newsroom is one of the more corrupt mainstream media outlets in New Zealand. Basically, people pay for their stories, or rather pay to get their stories. And if you didn't know, the likes of University of Auckland pay Newsroom, and in turn Newsroom runs their stories, which is why you see a lot of stuff from Anne Salmon. But that to the side, they'd be the first to report about a male MP saying terrible things about a female. But the other way around, no, just have to move on. And because it's Jacinda, we have to move on even more. So I think it's a little bit ridiculous. Harrison's right. You never want to punch anyone, which is terrible. There's actually some very funny ones coming through. It's lots. So it's streaming through here. It's just not appropriate, and it's really just that's fundamentally where I'm trying to get to. It's just not appropriate. Doubly so when it comes to someone like Jacinda, because of course she lectures us around kindness and emotion. And that was the funniest thing from her contribution on the Graham Norton show is, we want a different type of politics, where she's just had a documentary about wanting to punch someone. So again, it's the double standard, and the fundamental point remains that the left wing believes in violence. You see it all around us every day at the moment, unfortunately, through the protest groups and so forth. They believe in violence. They believe morally that they are right, and they have the ability to force that, or want to have the ability to force that on us, which is also why they hate free speech, why they want to have all new definitions of various phobias, everything and anything to stop opposition, which is pretty sad, really, but not a complete and utter surprise. Oh, excuse me. Hey, look, I just thought I would quickly touch on this. This is Australia, so moving away from New Zealand politics, moving to Australia. As you know, starting tomorrow, well, maybe you don't know, but starting tomorrow, there is going to be effectively a social media ban on under 16-year-olds in Australia. Now, by and large, we at Family First support this. We believe that parents need the tools and the support to help keep kids off social media at that age. And we know from the research as well, I think I shared it last week, or at least the week before, that a lot of young people are also saying, hey, we want some assistance to be able to keep off social media. Now, there's many approaches. You can jump onto my podcast to hear different interviews I've done with different people. In Australia, what they're doing is putting the onus or the responsibility on the social media companies to ensure that they stop people who are 16 years and younger accessing. So, as you might expect, quite controversial. There's different groups, including here in New Zealand, who believe this to be an overreach, a form of censorship. There's a concern around digital ID and so forth, and so acknowledging all of that. As I say, Family First perspective is ultimately that there is a place for this, and I see some comments coming through and appreciating that. I know Harrison, and one of them, Harrison's a younger man that I know, actually made a really good point the other day when he and I were talking, is that actually there's, often people with autism, not in all cases, but this was Harrison sharing about it, that actually this is their way of engaging with one another in a way that for them is safe. And, as you can imagine, it's not actually just people on the autism spectrum, it's just people with various personalities, or young people with different personalities sometimes find it easier to engage online. So I actually found that a really good point from Harrison, and obviously others have been pointing out that young people just go around the social media ban. But as I say, in general, and we'll have some more discussions about this, not necessarily on Solid Ground and Daybreak, but you'll see more coming out from Family First of why we see this as a good thing. But commenting just on the Australian situation, these are some of, not all of the social media platforms which are being at this point blocked, or access to is being banned for those under 16. So if you're 13 or 12 or 14, 15, fill in the blanks, you're not going to be accessing the likes of TikTok and Instagram and so forth. But two things struck me, and look, this is one of the counterpoints actually to a ban, is we've seen an explosion already in Australia of young people searching out other apps. Anyone else having the other apps. And so that's one thing. There's no point in just having a particular list. I'm seeing people saying the sound might be out of sync, which if it is, I will look into later. I'm not sure what is or isn't happening, because for those who are asking, is the sound out of sync? It's not from my end, and all the specs are looking good, but I will check it afterwards. Anyway, these are some of the apps, as you would imagine. A whole lot of others are beginning to fill the gap. I think that's something which Australia needs to look at. But one thing that really struck me, and this is again a counterpoint, unfortunately, it's the politicisation of the decision. Because you'll see X's on there, Facebook, as I say, the likes of YouTube. Blue Sky is not. Blue Sky is the alternative to X, and primarily set up by the left wing. That's where all the left wingers went to supposedly talk. It's where all the left wingers supposedly went to try and destroy X, and all it turned into is a terrible bun fight where basically people are yelling and screaming and harassing one another. But interestingly enough, despite Blue Sky being mainstream, despite Blue Sky being a social media platform, the Australians have not banned it to under 16-year-olds. I just find that fascinating. If you know anything about their e-safety commissioner, something we should not, by the way, have here in New Zealand, a person in a role of e-safety commissioner, She's well known for her political bias. She's the one who tried to take, I think, X to court, the likes of Billboard Chris and others. She's been actually quite a malign influence into the political space. And I just think it's fascinating, as I say, banning access to X, but not Blue Sky. So look, it's a simple point. Guys, I'm going to start wrapping it up there because, well, probably should. A reminder, of course, we have shows every morning. Bob will be back tomorrow on Wednesday. As you know too, you can watch, read and listen everything here on Family First. Not only do we do these live shows, we have podcasts and of course lots of articles that we write. A reminder too, we've got political playback coming up. That's going to be on Thursday night. A lot to discuss there. It's going to be the last political playback for the year. Switching sides, if you want to jump over to RCR, as you know, I host a show there. I've sat down recently with Dave Latelli and Derek Good talking about the giving machines. If you've been out in the likes of Lynmore at the Christchurch Mall, Sylvia Park here in Auckland, you might have seen these giant red vending machines. And they're reverse vending machines. You press a button of the charity of your choice and you get to donate them money, which is brilliant. Reminder too, Bob and I write regularly on Substack, Bob More Than I. Bob has recently read a listener article where they're freaking out about the right wing, which links me right back to the start. They talk about all the threats from the right. And again, this is not to say the right has got it perfect. There are issues there. But left-wingers, like the writers of the listener, are always desperate to conflate the issues of the left with the issues of the right, and they're quite different. And then I've written something most recently on this Mandami guy in New York, and how, you're going to find all the excuses barreling in from him around his failures, but importantly, and why I wrote it, is indicating some of the issues which actually do need to be confronted. So guys, as always, an absolute pleasure to have you here on Solid Ground. Know that if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe means that you'll get a heads up whenever myself or Bob or any of the team are on, or any new podcasts. We'll love to have you there. Anyway, guys, I will see you again on Thursday morning. In the meantime, you have a wonderful day. Enjoy this if you're in Auckland. I suspect it's around the country this exceptionally hot and humid day. But guys, all the best. Have a great day.